Howdy, howdy, guys. It's Mo from Mo in the Deep End, and I am your snarky sailor scout along with Lord Chippy, dispensing justice to an unjust world, or at least, making fun of people, especially, well, this Jim Brewer. I mean, how can you be a mass unaliver and look higher than Jim Brewer? That is a question that we will answer in this article because someone needs a Lord Chippy attendance. Mass unaliver Robert Crimo, sentenced to life in prison for the 2022 shooting that unalived 7. Well, sir, I hope that's not counting because that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, unless these 2 little lines are your 7, but, um, yeah, look, genetic unfortunates right there. And again, another prime example of why the Anunnaki won't give their futuristic technology. I mean, would you give us anything good if you realized we also were related to this guy? Well, Robert Crimo III, because of course he's the 3rd, uh, pled guilty to 21 counts of first-degree unaliving and 48 counts of attempted unaliving in connection to a mass shooting event in Highland Park, Illinois, in 2022, and was sentenced to 7 consecutive life sentences Thursday without the possibility of parole, plus 15 years in prison for each person injured. Now, I know for those of you who are just getting into true crime, or even some of us who have been here for a while, if you haven't watched a lot of trials, you're probably thinking, "Okay, why give them the plus 50 years?" Well, that is a bit of an appeal, insurance. Let's say, something absolutely crazy, redonkulous happens, and they were able to, overturn all of the 7 consecutive life sentences. Well, it gives the possibility that, even if they were able to miraculously get rid of all of the surviving, convictions, all of the homicides, if you will, then he's still in prison because he's still been convicted of injuring, a gajillion and 12 people. So, sometimes it doesn't make a lot of sense, and I've had to ask people much smarter than me, but that's how it was explained to me. If you know differently or don't agree, put it in the comments. Let's interact with it. So, 7 people died in that particular shooting, and more than 40 others were injured. Now, he did not appear in court either Thursday or Wednesday during the sentencing hearing, when several of the survivors and relatives of those that he had unalived talked about how this affected their lives. These are called victim impact statements. They're meant to address the court and kind of, again, as it states, put into words, put into maybe more human context what this crime has cost the victims, either the relatives left behind or the people that were injured. Now, this is not a time where the victims can address the usual butt monkey and orange. That is not the thing. Now, if I were a judge, that would totally be a thing, like, call him, the product of cousin marriage, call him anything but his name, like, I'm okay with it. At this point, just, I would be fine with it, which is why no one would make me a judge. Now, Mauricia Moran, whose husband was murdered by Crimo, spoke over Zoom and explained how her family had since moved out of Highland Park and that she remains in therapy due to the trauma of her spouse's death. "The shooter doesn't get to take anything more from me," Moran said. Now, Lee Sundheim, daughter of victim Jacqueline Sundheim, said, "I hope you will wake up in the middle of the night gasping for air you don't deserve." And she also read a statement on behalf of her father, who said that Crimo had destroyed their lives. Crimo wore women's clothing and used makeup to hide his facial tattoos in an attempt to blend in with the crowd when he did open fire from a rooftop during an Independence Day parade in Highland Park on July 4th, 2022. This was a big story. I did not follow this case, but I do remember it. Now we're going over a lot of the details. Uh, this was highly premeditated. I mean, again, dressing up as the opposite gender, covering identifiable markers. I mean, it's kind of all the premeditated, you douche. Now, he was arrested later that day and confessed to firing more than 80 rounds into the crowd from a nearby rooftop. Crimo's father, Robert Crimo Jr., pled guilty in 2024 to reckless conduct after signing the firearm owner's identification card for his then 19-year-old son. Now, at this time, the state of Illinois required people between the ages of 18 and 20 to have a guardian sign for, them to get a pew-pew. Now, Representative Brad Schneider, a Democrat from Illinois, posted to X on Thursday that the sentencing of the Highland Park shooter is one more step of healing for our community. The wounds from that day run deep and will never fully heal. So again, not a good person, total douchebag, and I'm glad that he finally got sentenced. And it does seem with the sentencing of his father that we are going to see more prosecutors move toward, holding parents responsible for the crimes that their children commit. Now, whether that is a dangerous line or something that the public is now demanding, I am not quite sure, as prosecutors are generally elected. And I do believe that in the Crumbley's case, this was a promise that she had made when she was elected that she would go after the parents. So we might be seeing a very big shift in, how we hold parents and people that are supposed to be responsible, how we apportion blame now. Now, I personally think that if you're gonna be an a-hole, you're gonna be an a-hole, regardless of if your parents were good or bad. I have seen, children from wonderful families end up choosing terrible, terrible life paths, and then you have people from terrible, terrible families who had never been even taught, like, the zip code of do right, the town, and managed to become the kindest, most giving, and wonderful people I've ever met. So it's a crapshoot. So it does look like we are going to see this forward momentum on, again, if there are ways that we can bring more people into the umbrella of responsibility in these big, mass events, I do see that we are probably going to be, trending toward bringing in family members, which we do. If there's a conspiracy, yes, but more parents, I think we are going to start seeing a shift towards that. Now, I think an interesting case to look at for this might be the Austin Metcalf or Carmelo Anthony case, because I think there could be an argument made that the parents should have known that he was carrying a knife into the track meet, but I also get stuck with kids are gonna kid. A person is going to do what they are going to do regardless of, authority. Actually, crimes are, absolutely just going against authority. So if you already have that mindset, is having, a parent that tells you no or yes going to change that much? I don't know. I'm not, a a galaxy brain with all the wrinkles. I'm just a redhead who moans and brings you all these ridiculous story of human corrotated trash water behavior. I don't know, but it is something that I do think we will start seeing a greater trend toward, um, but I'm not Nostradamus, I'm not even Miss Cleo, so take whatever I say with a ramen noodle packet full of salt, because as I am a redhead who babbles on the internet, I don't have any call to greater authority of mental knowledge. That being said, I hope you enjoyed this little, Lord Chippy bite, and we can hopefully the families of that lost a loved one or got injured because of this terrible cowardly act are getting the love and support, and hopefully this sentence, while nothing will ever bring closure, will at least allow you to grieve knowing that this person will never, ever be allowed to hurt someone else again. Though, sir, I wouldn't drop the soap. You look all of 19 pounds. Good luck and Gen Pop justice awaits. Bon voyage, douchebag. Bye, you guys.